NFL has a huge problem with players going broke. They earn so much money as players that they think it's impossible to blow it. But they forget that athletes have short careers and it won't last forever. But these players are different. They know that money runs out, and they found some seriously smart ways to stop that from happening. From intelligent spending habits to genius investment strategies, these players are the smartest in the whole of the NFL, and they have the bank balances to prove it. But how did they become super rich? Let's find out. Tom Brady. Tom Brady is sometimes considered one of the greatest NFL players of all time, but he's also one of the smartest. He kept playing even after his 40th birthday, set nearly every quarterback record out there, and even won the Super Bowl an incredible 7 times. He also won the Super Bowl Most Valuable Player Award 5 times and the NFL Most Valuable Player Award 3 times, and was vital to the success of both the New England Patriots and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It doesn't get much better than that. Some estimates say he has a net worth as high as $300 million, but that's obviously not just from playing. He was smarter than that and used his brain to earn himself even more cash. He used his knowledge he gained as a top athlete and turned his training regimen into a sports performance company and lifestyle brand called TB12. It's a pretty genius idea. I mean, who better to teach sports than Tom Brady? Everyone interested in sports and fitness will want in on that. That's not even his only brand, and he has merged 2 of his brands with another existing company, earning him even more money in shares. Basically, he's not just one of the best players in the NFL, he's also one of the best businessmen now that he's retired. While we're on the topic of NFL players creating smart companies, we need to mention this next player, Gale Sayers. Gale Sayers was an NFL legend, playing with the Chicago Bears from 1965 to 1971. He only played for 7 seasons, and nobody earned as much as an NFL player in those days as they do now. But he used what he had very wisely. In 1984, he launched the Crest Computer Supply Company. It installed computers and consulted on IT technology for big Silicon Valley companies, and it was one of the first to ever do that. Sayers was smart enough to spot a real opportunity and see that computers were going to grow. And the company is still running today, even though it changed its name. Sadly, Sayers passed away in 2020, but you can bet he went out with loads of money in the bank thanks to his incredible business smarts. But you don't need to have a great business brain to grow your money, as the next player proves. Glover Quinn. Retired footballer Glover Quinn had a unique way of handling his money that seriously paid off. He had a very successful NFL career playing with the Houston Texans for 4 seasons and the Detroit Lions for another 6 seasons before he retired in 2019. In those 10 seasons, he earned about $21 million from playing alone. It's impressive, but he didn't take that money for granted. He came up with a great strategy that would help him grow his money. It's known as a 30-70 plan. What that means is he decided his family would live off just 30% of his salary. It's more than you'd think, about $6,000 per month. That's not a bad amount of cash to live on. But what did he do with the rest of it? The other 70% was invested into publicly traded blue-chip stocks. Okay, it sounds boring, but it was a brilliant move. You'll never guess how much he earned with this strategy. In just 5 years using this strategy, he doubled what he'd earned as a player. We have no idea how much he has now, but if that strategy kept doubling his cash every 5 years, you can bet he's filthy rich by now. The next player on our list had a very different strategy, but it's also paying off for him. Rob Gronkowski. It can be easy to forget that players don't just earn money from their NFL contracts. They can get millions from endorsement deals, speaking appearances, book deals, and all kinds of other big earners. Tampa Bay Buccaneers tight end Rob Gronkowski used that to his advantage to help him hang on to millions of dollars that his teammates were spending. He revealed in his book, It's Good to Be Gronk, which he released in 2015, that he had never spent a penny of the millions of dollars he earned on the pitch. Instead, he cleverly used all his other earnings for his living expenses and any luxuries he wanted. That's a genius method of saving money. He doesn't need to be a smart investor or businessman to keep him going. A lot of players lose money on bad investments. Instead, he can just keep all the money safe in a bank account. That way, if he ever runs out of cash from endorsement deals, he'll have millions in the bank awaiting for him. Rob knew that holding on to his millions was all about what he spent. But the next player on our list decided to use something to his advantage that he already had close to him. Darius Hayward-Bay. Wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts and Pittsburgh Steelers, Darius Hayward-Bay earned a whopping $38.3 million from his football career. But he was determined not to blow it like loads of other players. So he cleverly made use of something he already had to help him manage his money: his mom. He handed all his money over to his mom and told her to give him an allowance for monthly expenses. Okay, we know this sounds pretty silly, but he had a very good reason for doing this. His mom is actually a qualified accountant. Could there be anyone better to help you look after your money than an accountant's mom? We don't think so. It worked out for him, and he also paid her a generous salary for her knowledge and services, so everyone wins. It just proves that sometimes you need to use what you already have to help you get rich. But while Darius was using something positive in his life to grow his wealth, the next person on our list took something negative and turned it into something good. Calvin Johnson. NFL fans were shocked to hear that Calvin Johnson was retiring in 2015. He'd played 9 seasons as a wide receiver with the Detroit Lions, and he's widely considered one of the greatest of all time. Lions fans were not happy to see him go. He was their star, but he wasn't retiring so he could take it easy on a beach somewhere. He'd suffered so many injuries on the field that he just couldn't keep playing anymore. But even though his football career was over, he knew he could turn his problems into something positive. Along with another retired NFL player, Seattle Seahawks guard Rob Sims, Calvin launched a company called Primitive. What does the company do? It's a medical cannabis dispensary aimed at helping people manage chronic pain like Calvin was experiencing from his football injuries. But he wasn't done there. In 2019, he was named as a member of the board of directors of the Michigan Cannabis Industry Association. And in the same month, he took things to a new level. Calvin and Rob partnered with Harvard University. They handed the university a 6-figure sum to fund a research project into the benefits of cannabis for chronic pain and its effect on the serious disease, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. The disease is caused by repeated head injuries that cause problems with brain function. It affects many NFL players, so you can bet it was a cause close to Calvin's heart. He's clearly chosen to invest his money in ways that he believes can really help people. But he was smart enough to work out how to make money from doing these good deeds. He's not the only player who figured out how to combine money-making and funding good causes. The next person on our list did the same thing, but in a very different way. Derek Morgan. Linebacker Derek Morgan played for 9 seasons with the Tennessee Titans, earning almost $43 million over his football career. After retiring, he knew he needed to do something with all that money. But is it better to invest it to grow your personal wealth, or should you give it away so it can help others? Derek worked out the perfect answer. He's been using his money for something called impact investing. Basically, he's investing his money into things that will both earn money back on his investment for him, but will also help communities. If you're wondering what that really looks like, he's choosing to only invest in companies that offer solutions to social or environmental problems that need fixing. His investments have gone into loads of different companies, including plant-based meat alternatives, low-cost community housing, green housing insulation, and even education technologies. All these companies are designed to have a positive impact while also earning a profit. It's the perfect win-win for everyone. But he's so passionate about this that he hasn't stopped there. He now also consults for companies to make them more impactful while also earning more money. This seems like the best way to invest that anyone's ever come up with. Obviously, there is the more traditional form of investing too. And the next player on our list made a crazy amount of cash going down that route. Joe Montana. Joe Montana is an NFL legend. He played as a quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, winning the Super Bowl a whopping 4 times. It was a glittering career that earned him an impressive $26 million. That's less than players earn now, but it was a huge salary at the time. And Joe was very smart after he retired and decided to start investing his millions. He put a bunch of his cash into Liquid 2 Ventures, a venture capital firm that has made 350 investments since it was created. But what does this mean? Well, it has made a ton of cash. When Joe first invested in this, he picked the tech company GitLab to invest in, and it was worth just $12 million at the time. But it grew to a whopping $11 billion. In other words, if Montana invested just $1 million in the company, that investment would now be worth almost $1 billion. We don't know how much exactly he put into the company, but it's pretty clear it definitely paid off. Think that's a lot of money? The next player on our list may have made just as much, or even more. Steve Young. Hall of Famer Steve Young won the Super Bowl 3 times with the San Francisco 49ers. He was paid well for his incredible abilities on the field. Some estimates say he earned an impressive $50 million as a player. And that's without even counting all his endorsement deals and other extra earners. But he wasn't content with all that money. He knew he could do better. And he was right. He co-founded a private equity firm back in 2007, and it was a genius move. That company now has almost $7 billion in capital and has a transaction value of over $68 billion. That's an insane amount of money. We don't know precisely how much of it can be added to Steve's personal net worth, but you can bet it's a huge sum and it's growing all the time. He clearly had a brain for good investments, and it's paying off in a big way. Of course, you don't need to be a genius investor to manage your money well, as the next player on our list proves. Carl Nassib. Carl Nassib played as a defensive end and linebacker for 7 seasons with 4 different teams. Most recently, he signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020, and they seemed pretty serious about getting him back on their team. It was a $25 million contract for 3 years. That's a crazy amount of cash, but Carl wasn't about to blow it all. In interviews, he's made it clear that he believes in living below his means to save money and invest it. He's even told us exactly how much he spends every month to make this work. And it's a pretty small budget for a multimillionaire. Before his recent retirement, he was spending just $3,500 per month during the football season. Off-season, he allowed himself a little more, with a monthly budget of $5,500. It's definitely enough to be comfortable, but it leaves him with a lot of savings. But what does he do with it? He said he had an Acorns account, and as someone that's not a super smart investor, he normally sticks to simple investments like index funds, which are normally pretty safe. As for the rest, he's a big believer in compound interest, so we're guessing he has most of his millions in a few savings accounts. It's a simple method, but sometimes simple is good. He knows he's not a genius businessman yet, and this is a great way of making sure he keeps his millions safe, instead of accidentally losing it all on a bad investment. Carl proves sometimes it's good not to invest, but the next player on our list shows that sometimes the best thing to invest in is your hobby. Rick Mirror. Rick Mirror played for 12 seasons, starting his career as a quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks. But while he was living the dream as an NFL player, he developed another passion while playing in the Bay Area: wine. The second he retired, he jumped straight into that industry and opened Mirror Napa Valley. The wine company specialized in the classic Californian Sauvignon wines. It was opened in 2004, but it's still going strong today, earning money for Rick every year. It's not often that people get to have a job that's also a passion, but Rick has achieved that twice in his life. It's pretty impressive. Rick followed his dreams, but the next player on our list decided family was the smart way to go. Jake Stoneburner. Tight end Jake Stoneburner played with great teams like the Green Bay Packers and Miami Dolphins. He didn't earn quite as much as some football stars, but he had a big advantage when it came to money. His dad owned a financial advisory firm. He literally couldn't have had a better person at his side to teach him how to handle his wealth. After retiring, Jake knew exactly what to do. He wanted to help his fellow NFL players learn how to handle their millions. He'd seen too many of his colleagues blowing all their cash, and he felt like it was all down to a lack of education about how to be smart with their money. So Jake joined his dad's firm. Now he's a member of Stoneburner Wealth Management, and he has some very clear thoughts about the problem NFL players have with money. He says, as a player, you can be a big earner one moment, but have no cash coming in if you're suddenly dropped. The same is true for players who retire. They can be wealthy while they're playing, but that won't necessarily last forever. He teaches players what to do after they retire, from how and when to invest their money, and how to be aggressive with their wealth when they need to. So not only is he earning lots of money himself as a financial advisor, he's also helping other ex-players to grow their wealth at the same time. It seems like a pretty good way to spend your time after retiring from the NFL. Want one more player who turned his passion for sports into a lucrative business deal? We've got you. Carl Banks. As a linebacker for the New York Giants, the Washington Redskins, and the Cleveland Browns, Carl Banks was playing back in the days when players didn't earn half as much as they do now. Still, back in 1988, when he signed with the Giants, his contract was worth at least $3.6 million. That was a crazy amount of cash back in the days when being a millionaire really meant you were wealthy. But after retiring, we guess he didn't want to leave the sports industry completely, because he started a company that produced licensed apparel for sports teams. Of course, the NFL is one of the leagues his company supplies, but they also make clothes for the NHL, NBA, MLB, as well as colleges and universities. He figured out a smart way to stay involved in sports while also using his millions to earn him even more money in a long-lasting way. The company is still operating today, earning money for over 20 years since he opened it. I guess if you win the Super Bowl, you don't want to leave your sporting career behind completely. These players prove that it's possible for NFL players to be seriously smart with their money. But not all players have the brains to hang on to their cash. Want to know about the dumbest ways players in the league totally blew it? Click here to hear all about the dumbest NFL players who went completely broke.